Okay. Well, I think we're live now. Let's just test it on YouTube first, because I get the feeling I'm under the exact same problems before. Right, let's go live here. Open that video there. Right, let's click on the live button. Just test it on YouTube first. Yep, that's better. Much better. Okay, cool. Right, sorry about that. Should have started about half an hour ago, but went all chaotic. Okay. So let's just get the link sorted out on Twitter, because I can't use Twitter live feed. Again, I'm not sure why. I think it's stupid, but there we are. Let's just get it sorted out because it's so messy. Okay. Right. We're getting somewhere now, I hope. Let's go back to the Restream network. Oh, where's the channel? Okay. Copy that. Okay. Now, I'm not showing if people are going to join on YouTube because the YouTube channel is very small, but it doesn't matter really at this point. I'll look to sort something out afterwards, probably. We'll see how it goes. Now, so 3 quick things. This is going to be quite a short stream because I don't have time to cover everything. So what I'm going to do is a Ukraine-Russia stuff, which we'll do. Let's see if I'm going to change the name of this stream. I don't think I can. I'll leave it for now anyway. Quick about Keir Starmer. The man is a compulsive liar. He's been proven many times to lie. He doesn't answer any questions in Parliament. You guys already know this, but it's worth repeating it, which will lead up to the whole question about Sarah Pochin's, the question she brought up in PMQs the other day, and how it's caused a bit of a stir. So all that's happened. And we've got to the point now where Zia Youssef, who was the chairman of Reform UK, has in fact resigned. And why he's resigned? He has his own reasons, I suppose, but I'm sure there's a number of reasons. I've got my own theory on this. I'll give it to you and people can think what they want. And we'll take it from there. So, yes. So Keir Starmer, Labour government. Labour government, is it worse than Boris Johnson's government? That's hard to tell because you have to give him the Labour government a bit more time to see how many more times they could screw up. And it all started with Southport, which is a complete disaster for them. They've obviously recovered from that, I suppose. It's been a while, but it's still a bad mark on them as the government because it was the first thing they had to deal with, and they dealt with it badly. I'm talking about the aftermath, not necessarily the actual event itself, because they couldn't do much about that. The way they handled it, the way they talked about it, a mess. Then they got tax rises. They promised no tax rises, they've risen up taxes. They're destroying the private sector because they think the national insurance contribution should go up. I can tell you right now from experience, that's had a bad impact on the private sector when it comes to people's wages. And in fact, you look at jobs right now, the salaries are not very high at all. They're actually, in most cases, stagnant, or they've actually shrunk, particularly in the IT sector, which I'm more familiar with. And that's not because companies are being stingy. It's because the national insurance contributions have gone up. And on top of that, companies are finding it very difficult to actually operate under the certain situation we have right now where the economy is not very good. Borrowing has gone up again. And of course, Labour will keep pivoting to that this black hole they keep referring to and saying it's all down to Tories, nothing to do with the Tories. There's the black hole that the Labour Party have created. And now they've got to try and fill in the gap and make up for it by keep blaming Tories. Well, you can blame Tories for a lot of things. You can't blame Tories for what's happened with our economy more recently. Now, that all being said, so what is happening today? The same problems as before. Rachel Reeves has no idea what she's doing, and I don't actually blame Rachel Reeves. I know she's obviously the Chancellor, and she has to take responsibility, but the buck stops with Keir Starmer. He is the Prime Minister after all. He sets up the cabinet, so I just get adjusting my chair a little bit. He is the Prime Minister. He's the one who's making these decisions. He put this cabinet together, and quite frankly, it is very disappointing because in the end, I want the government to do well. We all want the government to do well because, of course, if they do well, so do we. But everything they've done so far has been just bad. Very bad. So what's happening with Reform and the rest of the political parties? We know Labour are having it easy right now because they're the majority, and it's been a bit of a mess from the Tories. I don't think it's not Kemi Badenoch's fault. She's not a terrible candidate. She's also may not be the best candidate, but to think that she's the reason why the Tories are doing badly is nonsense. The Tories are always trying to step in and claim that Labour are terrible, when in fact people remember what the Tories did during their time in power. There's been talk of Boris Johnson coming back, which I think would be a horrific mistake from the Tories. Labour keep making mistakes. They've attacked the not just the private sector, but private education. We've seen as a result on many occasions where people who are obviously being squeezed out. So those in the private sector who have no choice but to send their kids to the public sector. Not all of them, obviously, but some. And because they can't afford it, you know, the tax they're applying to private education is just shockingly bad. And so once they've squeezed people out of the money, the amount of money they've got now, with all the people who are in the middle class or so-called middle class, and people nearing the poverty line, they're going to go to the rich, and after they've taxed the rich, they're going to say, look, all this money we have, they're soon going to find out that they can't tax anymore. Not anymore. It's going to be really bad. So we're quickly running out of money, or places where they can get money, right? And it's becoming more one of those things where I think they'll have to cut spending at some point. And they're trying to do it both ways. They're trying to cut spending in so many areas. All they're doing really is shuffling money around. They're not actually really cutting spending. They're just shuffling it around. And the cost of living is not improving. Inflation is still too high. Inflation has gone up recently, obviously. And the reason why I think Labour are doing badly in the polls is because they have this insistence on telling us, guys, you don't get it. Things are going to get better. Just be more patient. It's like, we're not actually angry at you for not acting quickly and not getting quick results. We're angry at you because you keep lying to us. That's why people are angry at you. And that will continue on. In the PMQs, the question was asked by Sarah Pochin about burqa. And I'll explain a bit more about this because I think it's very important. Not the question about the burqa, but why it has become controversial. And of course, Keir Starmer just, fobbed it off. And he's allowed to do that because apparently you don't have to answer questions in Parliament, according to the Speaker of the House, which by the way, I'll continue to say is a disgrace. I think Hoyle should step down and resign because he's not doing his job. Because you're not supposed to say, and it's the mistake he made, you may not like what he says. Well, no. It's a question of, is he answering a question? The answer is no, he hasn't. He's not answering most questions. He knows that Nigel Farage lives rent-free in his head. He mentioned Nigel Farage's name for some reason during the PMQs, even though Farage didn't actually have his name brought up by anybody, that from what I can recall. Sarah Pochin certainly didn't mention Farage's name. And he keeps getting away with it. And the media, we've had this kind of accusation from people online, because because they're not actually fully well informed, but it's not their fault. Well, sometimes it is, but for the most part it isn't. They're somehow the media protecting reform, which is nonsense, because they picked up on this story pretty quickly. They've attacked reform. They've made them look really negative, which again is perfectly fine. It's one of those stories that's come up. And it is frustrating for those who are reform supporters, who are planning to vote for reform. But they have been protecting this government. I mean, Beth Rigby of Sky News recently brought in, what's his name? Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester, of the Labour Party, talk about how they can try and stop reform. I mean, this is the journalism we have today. But unfortunately, the people online who are the quote-unquote new media don't do a decent job either. They're actually quite bad at it too. Let's just be fair. So let me go to Sarah Pochin's actual, because for those who will watch this maybe later on, if you look at what she said in the video, because I've said here in the tweet, Runcorn constituents thought that we should concentrate at banning the burqa rather than reversing tax hikes. Not a good look for Runcorn, I'm afraid, of all respect. I'm referring to Runcorn constituents. Because if you look at the video, listen to the video, she posted this on, what day is it? June the 4th. So this was just yesterday, of course, 11 o'clock. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions for the Prime Minister. I have chosen one and will be asking it just after 10 noon today in the House of Commons. So let's have a listen to what she actually said in the video.
Hello everyone, really important day for me today. I've got my first question at the MPs to the Prime Minister. I've asked you, my constituents, what you want me to ask. So join in at 12 o'clock and see what the question's going to be.
Right. So she said, she asked her constituents about what you wanted to ask. They've given the responses. How that came through, I have no idea. But probably have to be by email. Okay, that's fine. But then she chose the question based on what she just said there. Okay, it's up to her, but my point is she chose the question in the end. Hello, everyone, sorry. Important for me to first question today at the PMQ's Prime Minister, what to ask him. I've asked you, my constituents, what you want me to ask. We want to ask, so join at 12 o'clock and see what the question is going to be. So she would have probably got a variation of questions, and she went with the one about the burqa. Now, do I think the burqa should be banned? Yeah. I don't want people walking around with a bloody thing over their head in public, covering an entire face. I say this as a person who's got Middle Eastern roots. Yeah, I have no issue with that. That can be debated another time. People right now are more concerned about the economy, the fact that inflation is a problem, cost of living is up, the council tax hike happened recently. So apparently this wasn't run by anyone in the Reform UK party. Now, I'm not sure that's true or not, but let's assume it wasn't. It doesn't really matter because Sarah does not need permission from Nigel Farage or Zia Youssef to ask that question. Just to be clear about that. Unless there's a party policy, which there probably won't be, because I don't recall seeing this in the manifesto, that once you're elected MP, you need permission from the leader of the party or the chairman to ask a specific question at the PMQs. Now, you could argue the choice of the question was poor, and I believe it was, but she's still entitled to ask that question. It is. But it seems to be a combination of things because more recently, if you look before what happened with the PMQs, Farage was in Scotland or was up with Scotland, and we had, and of course, if Zia Youssef had an issue of this, he would have probably made it clear there's an issue of it, but clearly he didn't. When Farage showed that video of, I forget the guy's name, the guy who leads Scotland, the Labour Party in Scotland, Sarwar? Or Sarawak, forgive me, I forget his name. But you know what I'm talking about. And he mentioned how, he's putting the Pakistani community more in focus and giving priority over those who are born and bred in Scotland, so to speak. That's the way the video went. It was quite a short video. And they play these words. Now, maybe Zeus was uncomfortable with that. I don't know. But if you look at everything that Ziyech is talking about, he has mentioned immigration. He has talked about migration. He's talking about the boats. He's talked about that. So it's not as if he hasn't talked about it at all. However, he's been more and more focused on, let's say, the local elections, which this is not an issue when it comes to people who have local concerns about the community in the constituency or ward they live in. The burqa is not an issue. It's not a question. It's not even brought up. The first time I heard about the burqa now, it must have been 5+ years since the talk of the burqa ever been brought up. In fact, the last person who was any controversy about it was when Boris Johnson, who at the time was the MP, mentioned about letterboxes or something. I'm not sure if he was in opposition at the time. Maybe he was the leader of the opposition at the time after May resigned. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have to look that one up. But yeah, that being said, it was hardly any topic that's been brought up. So on top of that, plus this, plus the harassment, and he gets a lot of it, Ziyech on Twitter. Maybe he wanted to step aside. Maybe he just thought it was too much. So it would have been a combination of things. But all the MPs have come out on Twitter, including, what's her name? But she's not an MP, so she's the mayor, Andrew Jenkins, praising Ziyech for his work. If you actually look at Ziyech's actual tweet, because it's something which I thought was interesting, let's say. So his actual tweet itself was this. He said, if I can get to a help, because he responded to, I don't know why he did. I mean, this Kate Hopkins, I just can't stand. I mean, she's a charlatan and she's also a grifter, no doubt about it. I mean, if a Reform UK want to do well, if obviously I'll avoid her like the plague. Seriously. She's horrible. She's no good to the party. None of these people are. These charlatans and these grifters online are just toxic. And in fact, they're more than happy to see Reform fail, because if Reform can't get into power and actually change things, and of course if they start changing things and things start to work better for the country and work better and actually works for us, they won't have a job anymore. That's why these grifters are so angry. So in his tweet, he said, 11 months ago, I became chairman of Reform. I worked full-time as a volunteer to take the party from 14 to 30%, contributed its membership, and delivered historical electoral results. I no longer believe working to get a Reform government, now that sounds horrible at that point, but it is elected, is a good use of my time, and hereby resign my office. So that in itself, it doesn't sound great, like defense of Reform, but he's not actually attacking them. He's not like leaving bad taste. He's actually saying, look, I've worked hard. Okay? Now, people are saying he's taking a lot of credit for this. Well, I hate to break this to people out there, but it was actually Ziyech, not just Farage, the volunteers on the ground, who made this happen. So he should take credit for it. He shouldn't take full credit, but people are, just as usual, make a big deal out of this. Make a big deal out of everything, pretty much. That's what happens on the right. I've seen this happen for the last 20 years of my life, at least. More than 20 years, in fact. So he's actually decided to quit as chairman. He's obviously going to have to probably change a lot of this as chairman of the UK. He's got to obviously adjust all that. And that's a great shame. That is a great shame. But it's happened. One must move on. And there's probably a lot of disappointing Reform. But to tell you the truth, guys, we're still years away from the general election. You've got some elections in Scotland coming up. There's going to be more local elections next year. Things can change very quickly in politics, as we've seen, just like today. But decided that somehow this is all over for Reform is nonsense. If things are still bad in the country as they are, people are not going to be worried too much if Ziyech resigned as chairman, or I suppose it depends on who they bring as a chairman, how it works from here. And maybe the next chairman won't be seen, let's say, on camera so much as Ziyech was, because he was always on TV defending Reform. He was on the ground working to get people councillors elected, to get Sarah elected, which, by the way, you have to remember the efforts those guys put in, including Yusuf, to get her elected must have been quite something. Bearing in mind how much work they had to do, because this is against a safe Labour seat. So that had been a lot of hard work put in by him and the rest of the team there. So they should get credit for it, and he should get credit for it especially, because you're the chairman of the actual party. You shouldn't have to go out there and do any of this. But he volunteered himself. He went out there and made sure it happened. So that's that. Yusuf is still about. He's still a name. People know who he is. What's he going to do next? Is he going to still be out there and try and help Reform UK behind the scenes when it comes to Doge? Because he's been working on that quite a bit. So we'll see what's next for him. But Reform will move on. So it is of interest to people, and I think I'm going to be certainly keen to know what questions were brought up to Sarah Pochin, why she decided to go with that question. But she's made that choice now, right? It's happened. And you just got to move on. Sorry, just the way it works now in life. And Reform UK can't sit there and think to themselves, we've got to argue about this, we've got to try and make a meal out of this. Oh, I quit now, I've had enough. It's like, it is it is frustrating. But guys, this is not the first, and by the way, the media are not going to stop going after Reform. They're going to double down on this. So for those at the who are working hard to get people elected, you should be the ones that get a lot of credit, a lot of support, and respect too from us. And all these idiots out there who want to see more infighting, who have no interest in working towards seeing Reform get elected, and are too busy saying, well, you should undo this or Rupert Lowe, and you should bring him back. And even though Rupert Lowe's doubled down on his attacks on Farage again, not a surprise from him. And how you should talk more about Islam and nothing else. It's like, guys, sorry, but the country does not want you to talk about Islam 24/7. Does not want you to talk about immigration 24/7, because the most important thing right now is the cost of living, inflation. These things may be tied in some respect to immigration, but it's not the biggest reason why it's happened. It certainly isn't. And you guys should get off your backside and start working hard too by trying to get elected as well. Because if you guys know all and you know how the country feels, why don't you run for office? Why don't you run for council seats? Why don't you run as MPs? No, you know why you don't do it? Because you're too bloody lazy. You see, the left are not lazy compared to you guys on the right. You spend most of your time justifying how the reason why things are so bad for you is because it's someone else's fault. And by the way, the left do it too in some respect. But when they want to try and get in power and do something about it, they get off their backsides and work hard. 10 times harder as you do. So if Reform UK want the result in 2029 or before that, I think the election will probably take part in 2028. If you want to actually get that power to be able to act and actually do things whilst in government, Reform UK have to do 3 times the work, at least 3 times the work Labour activists do on the ground. I've seen it with my own eyes. These guys are relentless. They won't stop. But you guys on the right, just like your tweets, get to traffic. You see, if you listen to me, I've been there. Even though most of the people that follow you are bots, they're people from America, they're not people from the UK, right? So stop thinking you act for the majority of the country. You don't. The reason why Reform UK actually reached, who knows, it might have peaked, but it got to 30%, is because of people like Zia Yusuf, Nigel Farage, not you. You're not out there working hard to get people elected. You're not out there talking to people. Most of the time you're on their Twitter talking to yourself, or you're out there trying to stir things up. And I've seen this happen in all these parties on the right. Democrats and Veterans Party is one of those examples. I could tell you so many stories about that, which I haven't got time for. Meanwhile, Labour Party destroying the country. But you rather support grifters like Kay Hopkins and all these other ones out there who spend their entire time telling how bad things are, but offer nothing on the table, want your money, make money from Twitter, make money from YouTube, get themselves in all sorts of trouble, and expect you to bail them out. They don't represent your views at all. They represent the majority of this country. Stop falling for the scam. That is the right-wing grifting sphere, as we call it now. So that's that. So I want to talk more about Russia. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I'm going to try and sort out this stream setup because, of course, I can't stream directly into what is it? Into Twitter. What I might do is do it in such a way I can put it onto like a space as well. That might be better to do next time. We'll try it tomorrow if we'll do it as a test probably, but we'll see. Anyway, for those who are watching this afterwards, it was a quite short stream. Wish I could talk more, but it's a bit late. I had to use another laptop, unfortunately. Hoping to sort something out a bit better when it comes to streaming to make it a bit more